Welcome to Esalen Live, where we chat with change agents and swim deep waters in an ongoing exploration of human potential. I'm your host, Christine Chen. Esalen is on track to reopen in March, and our teaching faculty is making plans to return. Shamini Jain, author and CEO of the Consciousness Healing Initiative, is scheduled to teach after her last workshop had to be canceled due to COVID. So we're really happy to have her back and joining Esalen Live today. What are you drinking there, Shamini?
Thank you. Just some nice warming orange tea, actually,
Love,
Christine.
love, love
It's a
that.
little chilly here in the Carolinas, so a little warm tea always feels good.
It's so great to see you. We are talking a lot these days between ourselves. You and I talked about this, but it's like this feeling of there's this emergence that's coming, that there's a feeling of the season, and also because of everything we've gone through, of reigniting our passions and maybe like finding a motivation to come back. I mean, and sometimes people say that's Shakti. So that's the topic of today's Esalen Live is Shakti. What is Shakti, Shamini?
So Shakti from, the ancient traditions is really the animating creative force in all forms. And many of you are probably familiar with this, but if we look to some of the ancient wisdom in the Indian texts and, the East Asian texts, we talk about consciousness as the formless oneness, right? Sometimes described as Shiva. But Shakti is the animating force of nature behind Shiva, if you say. It's what brings consciousness into form in every way. So, what does that mean? I mean, it basically means that Shakti is everywhere and it's in everything, including in us. It's that animating creative force that we really feel a lot, particularly as, spring becomes upon us.
And this is from the Hindu religion and the Hindu practice. Is this concept a crossover concept between cultures too? Because I feel like other cultures have this concept as well of Shakti.
This idea of the creative animative force is absolutely in other cultures, and including the Hindu, but also the Tantric, Jain, Buddhist, so many different texts that come from potentially a place of unifying origin spoke about this. But it's interesting you asked that question, because I was listening in on a lecture at Brown University recently about ki. And the way ki, if you really dive into the ancient understandings of ki and the way it's been described, there's a lot of resonance with some of these Shakti Shiva principles. And I actually asked the scholar, would you say that the way that you're describing ki right now is sort of in resonance with the Shakti Shiva principles, this principle of yin and yang, for example? If it's not even such a surface comparison, if you really dive into what the ancient literature was saying, there's definitely these correspondences between this idea of the void, the formless oneness, excuse me, and the animating principles behind the formless oneness that give rise to the world as we see it. Some people will call that life and that world, the world that we live in, illusory, and some won't. It really just depends on how you view Shakti, how you view that animating force. But I think the most important thing for us at this time, as you mentioned, as we're kind of coming into a new normal, potentially this emergence, recreation, renewal, and also a lot of reflection, is how do we feel this supposed elusive principle called Shakti and realize that it's actually not elusive at all. We can feel it in our bodies. We can see it everywhere.
Mhm. I think you really hit the nail on the head about why paying attention to this right now is so important. I'm so glad you're taking another sip of tea and taking care of yourself there.
Yeah, I had a
One
little tickle in my throat the last couple of days, which, isn't so fun for a singer, but it is what it is.
Yeah, we just do what we can, right? Which goddess represents Shakti in the Hindu canon?
So in Vedic and Tantric traditions, and in so many traditions across the world, there are all kinds of embodiments of Shakti that are, kind of depicted as these goddesses. So it's not just in the Hindu tradition, but in many, many different traditions. And to say which one would be like, trying to qualify all of the qualities of taste, touch, smell, feeling, there's so many. They all represent different aspects of the one, different vibrations. But the one, I know that you and I were talking about, Christine, just recently was Lakshmi. Lakshmi in the Hindu tradition is one depiction of a very powerful type of Shakti. And, we can dive into that a little bit today if you like, because I know that most people are probably familiar with this depiction of Lakshmi. What a beautiful picture you have there of her as the goddess of abundance and flow. And in this time where there's so much uncertainty, for many of us, there's, sort of financial uncertainty and otherwise. Lakshmi is a very relevant goddess to explore when we're exploring the divine Shakti and how we bring that vibration into ourselves for personal and societal harmony.
And this is really at the heart of it is devotion and love to flow into abundance. Is that right?
That's part of it. So one of Lakshmi's medicine, you can say, part of what Lakshmi teaches us is, well, let's break down a little bit of her vibration. And here I'll talk about her vibrational essence. She's connected with the seed mantra, seed Shakti mantra, which is known as Shrim, Shrim. Oh, how beautiful. You have it there on the screen. So Shrim, the qualities of Shrim are lunar, they're effervescent. They almost have a watery quality to it. And Shrim has a very cooling quality to it. And this really is the essence, of Lakshmi's vibration and how we can feel her in our bodies. Because as we connect with her, we sort of cool ourselves down in a way. You can really actually feel that cooling energy coming through you when you chant her mantras. And with any goddess, with any type of devotional practice, the beauty of it, whether we're praying, we're chanting, we're doing our meditation in different ways, the more that we open our heart, the more that we can experience the flow of contentment. And
Mm.
Lakshmi is really the medicine for that, because as we open to devotion and sort of, a surrender to the process of the energy, we begin to realize that what we're seeking is already here. So in Hindu tradition, generally, many people pray to Lakshmi for material wealth. But if you look at her four arms, you'll see she's got four arms. And the first one, the first two actually in the front, as you can see, they're not holding flowers. Now, the ones in the back are holding, usually depicted as two lotuses. These other ones in the front really depict the general facets of well-being. Let's just, talk about this and link it kind of with what science says about well-being. Because if we look at Lakshmi, she's actually teaching us about all the forms of well-being and abundance just through her arms. So her first two arms represent art, which is material wealth, kind of security, our base bones. Like, we are human beings, we need food, clothing, shelter, we need money to do those things. So she blesses us with that open, outstretched hand on her leg. And sometimes you'll see her depicting gold coins there because she's blessing us with that level of prosperity, that aspect of what we might call hedonic well-being, right? To fulfill us in that way. And then she has this raised hand that's kind of in blessing. And that's also a representation of well-being that we call kama, which is really about being connected with our desire and the fulfillment of that desire. So Lakshmi's outstretched hand there, her hand is showing us that it's okay to desire. It's actually okay to have desires, and may your desires be fulfilled. But she doesn't just stop on the material plane. So when you look at her back two arms, one arm represents what we call dharam, which some people might translate, in the Western world as eudaimonic well-being, or living a life of virtue, being one with your virtue and living a virtuous life. Some people might call that living in accordance to your purpose. So that's what one of her arms holding the flowers represents. And then the last one in the back there is moksha, or salvation. It's literally self-actualization, if you want to call it that. Being one with the goddess or God, however you would describe it. So she's powerful, right? Because she's cooling, she's flowing, she nurtures you,
Mm.
and she reminds you that abundance can be found on all levels.
I
And as
love that.
we
I
open
love
our
how
heart
you
to her,
frame
yeah.
that. It's so beautiful, especially for now. If you're just joining us on Facebook Live, this is Shamini Jain, CEO of the Consciousness Healing Initiative and Esalen faculty. She has an upcoming workshop in the fall. And we'd like to invite you here at home to chant with Shamini, the Lakshmi Chant. I guess then what you're saying is to invoke some of the potential of what she represents in our own lives, which is so relevant right now. Would you mind leading us in a chant, Shamini?
You bet. So we're going to start really simply. And the goal here is just to feel the vibration in your body. That's what we're going for. And that's why we're going with a very simple seed mantra stream to begin with. And there's no right or wrong way to do this, but see if you can do it with an open heart of devotion. And so we're going to bring the sound into our bodies and see if we can resonate it in our heart. And we'll do this 5 times. And we'll just do it like this. Just chant along with me. Shrim. 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 And just tune into your field for a moment.
Shamini, that was so beautiful. I know that in relation to your nonprofit, Chi, Consciousness Healing Initiative, you study the biofield. What does that have to do with Shakti? How do the two intersect? And by the way, I feel great now. Thank you.
Thank you. Chanting is amazing, right?
Yes,
Thank you for
it
that
totally
question,
is.
Christine. It's actually a great one because a number of us at the nonprofit and all around are studying these fields of energy and information that connect us and guide our health. And that's overall what most of us would describe as the biofield. So we can explore the biofield of a cell, the bioelectromagnetic radiations that come out, including things like biophotons. We can explore heart health, right? We can explore heart health by even looking at the EKG. And yet there are these subtle aspects of energy and information that we've been talking about in healing for thousands of years. And Shakti is a part of that. So in the Vedic and Tantric and other traditions, when we describe Shakti, it's part of what we are describing, in my view, as the biofield. Now, there are some Western healing practitioners as well as scientists that would like to reduce the biofield to just things that we can measure that are bioelectromagnetic. I would say that's a mistake. That's a gross error because, these other fields of energy and information, subtle energy, things that we know play a role in energy healing and things like that. We've looked at research exploring things like energy healing and chanting. This experience of the subtle, which is not always so easy to measure with current instrumentation, does have profound healing effects on us. And we can look at that all the way down to the biological level. I myself have done randomized controlled trials on breast cancer survivors, for example, demonstrating how these subtle aspects of healing, this subtle work with Shakti in our bodies, can heal us even down to our cortisol rhythms. So
Hmm.
that's part of the biofield.
Hmm. And I know that you've written a book about this, and that's coming up. We'll talk about that in a second. But what I'd like to do is take what you just gave us about the biofield, and can we visit the longer Lakshmi chant with that knowledge and that information that might be seeping into our bodies in this moment together? And if you're on Facebook Live, please join us at home as you listen to Shamini. Shall we try the full chant?
Yes, let's do the full chant. And I'll just give a little bit of an explanation of this. So, Om, you're probably familiar with, right? The universal seed mantra. And this is really to open up the space to the greatest levels of consciousness that we can explore. So, we're literally opening up to universal consciousness when we begin a chant with Om. Shrim, of course, we just went over the seed mantra for Lakshmi Ma, which has sort of a watery, lunar, and somewhat magnetic quality. Lakshmi Devi is, of course, the goddess of whom we're speaking of, and Namaha is giving reverence. So we'll do this also 5 times. You can do it at your own pace. I'll be, chanting it with you. You don't have to hold it as long. You can do this as you like. I'll I'll suggest that you start at least with chanting it out loud, but know that these chants are also extremely powerful to do silently. And often, actually, I do most of my chanting silently, but just do what feels right for you. So we'll begin. Om Shreem Lakshmi Devi Namaha. 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 Om Shreem Lakshmi Devi Namaha.
Shamini, that was so beautiful. You're getting lots of love on Facebook. We put some of the comments on. And if you have any questions for Shamini too, she's here to answer your questions about this practice as well. So much love for you right now. All these hearts are flying through Facebook. The intersection of this, I definitely felt the energy, even through the screen here, just listening to you. But is there a difference? And should we explore, if we are interested in it, vocalizing? Where does that all come together with prayer and energy flow and invoking the spirit of Lakshmi?
It's been said in many traditions, Nada Brahma, the world is sound. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God. So there is this very profound connection between sound, both audible and inaudible, and Shakti, right? Some would just describe it really as one and the same. Sound is Shakti. It's really in some ways that simple, but that's why mantra practice and sound making is so incredibly powerful to liberate ourselves and feel our Shakti. So I do encourage, as I mentioned, I'm a singer. I do encourage people to vocalize. I don't feel that we get to explore the voice and just have fun with it as much as we'd like. We kind of feel like, oh, either I'm a singer or I'm not. Well, guess what? Everyone's a singer. So whether you think you have a good voice or not, you've been given a voice, and that's a huge blessing because it's not just about expressing your truth, but it's about exploring yourself. So play with the voice. I really encourage that, and just even at home.
Yeah. We've talked about this before because the way I think about this in terms of the chakra system is that this place of expression in the throat, in the voice, is directly above the space in the heart. So it just feels like this natural rising from the heart. How can we come to this practice from the heart, Shamini? Because it may or may not be in our cultural or religious or practice background, but you've said to me before that this is for everyone. So how can we come to this in a way that's from the heart so that it gives rise to this really authentic healing expression?
Oh, what a beautiful question. And the first thing that pops in my mind is any song of love or devotion that resonates with you. start with that, because all you're doing is just tapping into that natural feeling that exists, in you. It's already there, right? So when you tap into something that already has that feeling tone, that sense of resonance with the devotion that's within you, then it will naturally arise. So it doesn't have to be formulaic. You don't have to say, okay, I'm going to tune into my heart and I'm going to focus my awareness there. Yes, you can do that. Or you can simply go with the feeling and express it. And then notice how you feel when you're singing that song of love. And sometimes if we haven't sung for a while or there's a song that makes us feel really emotional, we might even cry. Like it might even just open that up
Mm,
for us. And that's actually good. We're just opening up the heart, expressing the emotion. So as we go through these waves of feeling emotion, then we get to almost the beautiful stillness that comes with devotion, and it's a natural process. So
mm.
yes, we can tap into the subtle feeling of our heart, but we can just start really simple with singing a song that makes us feel love.
Mm, I love that. And it is something we're missing so right now during COVID, going to a concert and having everyone in an entire stadium be on the same page with the same song, being with your family, maybe the extended family singing together. I do want to mention that you go into this a little bit more in your book, Healing Ourselves, Biofield Science and the Future of Medicine. Your book release is in September. Have we locked down a date for your workshop on property yet? Shamini?
I don't know that we have. I do believe that we're looking at probably a week long on this exploration of the divine feminine through sound and breath work and movement. And I'll be co-teaching that with a really wonderful co-teacher, Kirti Srivastav. And I believe we'll be doing a workshop around the healing keys, which is in my book as well. Hopefully in the fall, but I'll let you know as soon as we decide on the dates. And one thing
Yeah.
I'll mention about the book too is it does come out September 3rd, and it's actually already available for pre-order if anyone is interested. I think you can get it on Amazon and Target and hopefully some other cool booksellers as well.
Oh, I think we already put it on the Esalen website, Shamini. Yeah, shop.esalen.org. And by the way, if you want to buy her book at 10% off and support Esalen at the same time, the code is Esalen Live 10. Look at all this love you're getting. I just want to put one more up on the screen for you here, right beneath us from Anisha Anand. Can't wait to get your book,
Oh,
Shamini Jain.
thank
Yeah.
you.
Thanks everybody on Facebook for joining and chanting and being with Shamini and myself here on Esalen Live. I mean, healing's what it's all about right now, isn't it?
It is. It's the buzzword for the year and for good reason.
For sure. Shamini Jane, we'll see you soon in person, online. Feel your vibe in your book. Have
Mhm.
an awesome day, everybody. Lakshmi Ma.
Bye,
Bye.
everyone.
Bye, Shamini. Thank you.
Thank you.